Good morning students, welcome to SST So Simple tutorial. Dear students, today we will start a new lesson, the Age of Industrialization, which is chapter 5 of your NCERT textbook. The lesson begins with a picture. This artwork is basically a cover page of a music book announcing dawn of the century. It was published by E.T. Paul in 1900. If we look into the picture, we will see an image of a goddess-like figure. She is picturized as an angel of progress who bears a flag of the new century. She is standing on a wheel with wings that will take her to the future. Behind her are the symbols of progress such as railways, camera, machines, printing press, factory, etc. Not only this, there are some more examples of glorification of machines and technology by the people. One such was the picture that appeared on a trade magazine titled The Two Magicians. It shows two magicians, each with different characteristics. I hope that everyone has heard or read about Aladdin and his magic lamp. On the top is Aladdin from the Orient, who has built a beautiful palace with the help of his magic lamp. And at the bottom you can see the picture of a modern mechanic, who with his modern tools has built bridges, ships, towers and tall buildings. Aladdin here is shown as a symbolic representation of East and past. On the other hand, the mechanic symbolizes the West and the modernity. After seeing these pictures, you must have got an idea about what the content of the lesson would be. It would be dealing with industrialization. Students, we all are familiar with the term industrialization. It simply means setting up of industries. We read about various industries and industrialists in newspapers and magazines every day. But the question arises as to how did the industries come into being? How did the age of industrialization start? How did it impact people's life? To know this, we must read the history of industrialization. So all these things will be discussed in this chapter. We will discuss history of industrialization by focusing first on Britain, which is considered as the first industrial nation, and then we will discuss about India, where the pattern of industrial change was conditioned by the colonial rule. So let us begin with Unit 1, before the Industrial Revolution. Almost everything that is produced today is mass produced with machines, and technology playing a big role in its production, manufacturing and distribution. All this became a reality because of the developments made in the Industrial Revolution. So normally we owe the credit for mass production to Industrial Revolution. But the fact of the matter is that there was a large-scale industrial production for international market even before the advent of Industrial Revolution. This pre-industrial revolution phase is known as proto-industrialization. Proto means the first or early form of something, original or primitive. So when we prefix proto to something, it means original form of that thing. When we say that this is a prototype, we mean it is the original model. Okay. The production under this system was based not in the cities but in the countryside. It was carried out in decentralized units and it was controlled by merchants. In the 17th and 18th centuries, merchants from towns in Europe began employing peasants and artisans within the villages. They gave them orders, supplied money and raw materials to these peasants and artisans who did the work at home. Then the merchants collected the produce and sold it in the markets for huge profits. Now the question arises, why did the merchants move to countryside? What prevented them from working in towns? First of all, with the expansion of world trade and the acquisition of colonies by the European countries in different parts of the world, there was a growing demand for goods worldwide. The merchants wanted to make full use of this opportunity and earn profits. This required that the volume of production be increased. This was not possible in towns because of the presence of powerful guilds. The production and trade in towns was controlled by trade guilds. Now the question comes, who were trade guilds? You can see your book, Unit 1, 3rd para, 8th sentence and underline. These were associations of producers that trained craftspeople, maintained control over production, regulated competition and prices, and restricted the entry of new people into the trade. Rulers had granted different guilds the monopoly rights to produce and trade in specific products. Thus, merchants could not set up businesses in towns and were compelled to move towards countryside. Now you may ask why the poor peasants and artisans began working for merchants. See, the rural artisans and peasants found it in their own interest. This was the time when the open fields were disappearing and commons were being enclosed. Peasants depended upon these open fields and common property for grazing their cattle, collecting firewood, berries, vegetables, hay and straw. For the poor, the common land was essential for survival. It supplemented their meager income. Some peasants had small plots of land. These could not provide work for all the members of the family. In such a situation, if someone offers an alternative source of income at the doorstep, what else one can ask for? So when merchants offered them money to produce goods for them, they readily agreed. By working for the merchants, they could remain in the countryside, continue their cultivation, and did the work of manufacturing in their spare time. Thus, you will see that the merchant lived in towns, but he was able to control his work, which was carried out in the countryside. His work was not produced at one place, but was scattered. It was done by different agencies located at different places. These included staplers, fullers, dyers, etc. In the last stage, finishing was done in London, and then the goods were sold in the international market. I hope you have understood the production during proto-industrialization. If you have understood, then only you can differentiate with the production process after industrialization. Let us see the probable questions from this topic. Number 1. What is proto-industrialization? 2. Explain the main features of proto-industrialization. This question came as 4-mark question in 2010. Why were merchants from Europe began to move countryside in the 17th and 18th century? 1 mark 2018. Why was it difficult for the new European merchants to set up their businesses in towns in the 17th and 18th century? 6. What were trade guilds? 7. Why did peasants agree to accept advances made by the merchants to produce for them in Europe during the 17th and 18th century? Students, with this we finish the topic that was planned for today. In the next class, we will move further to see the coming up of the factory. Till then, keep reading and have a nice time. Thank you.